ready for this? Every 40 seconds, someone chooses to end their life by suicide. That is around 105 people a day, according to 2010. You may have never known anyone that has committed this terrible tragedy, but for many it is a reality. Suicide is the 10th freaking cause of death in the United States, according to suicidology.com. Death by suicide is ranked above diseases such as Parkinson's disease and chronic liver disease. Knowing the facts and warning signs of suicide may prevent even one more life being ended too soon. I didn't want to wake up. I was having such a better time asleep, and that's really sad. It was almost like a reverse nightmare, like when you wake up from a nightmare and you're so relieved. I woke up into a nightmare. This quote was said by Ned Zazzini, and it's kind of a funny story. Suicide has quickly become an epidemic. More people now die of suicide than in car accidents, according to the Center of Disease Control and Prevention. Suicide in the past has typically been a problem in regards to teenagers and the elderly, and the surge in middle-aged Americans is surprising. Suicide rates among middle-aged Americans has risen sharply in the past 10 years, prompting concern that a generation of baby boomers who have faced years of economic worries and easy access to prescription painkillers may be particularly susceptible to self-harm. No one knows for sure why one commits such an act. The common debate in regards to suicide is whether the act of ending one's life is situational or a mental disorder. Many have also suggested a combination of both. According to the New York Times, from 1999 to 2010, the suicide rate among Americans ages 35 to 64 has risen by 30%. The increase in suicide is said to possibly stem from the economic downturn in the past decade. Historically, it is said that suicide rates rise during times of financial stress and economic downfall. Another possible explanation may be the widespread availability of opiate drugs such as oxycodone and oxycontin, which can be particularly deadly in large doses. Many suicides are committed using firearms. Firearms are the #1 cause of suicide. There are also many other methods such as poisoning, hanging, and cutting. Poisoning deaths have risen 24% over the 10-year period, while hangings have risen a whopping 81%, according to officials. Gender has been reported to play a significant role in suicide and the methods used to commit the act. While females tend to show a higher rate of reported non-fatal suicide behavior, males have a much higher rate of completed suicide. Although females attempt suicide at a much higher rate, they are more likely to use methods that are less immediately lethal. Males frequently complete suicide via high-mortality actions, such as hanging, carbon monoxide poisoning, and gun violence. This is in contrast to females who tend to rely on drug overdosing. While overdosing can be deadly, it is less immediate and therefore more likely to be caught before death occurs, according to Wikipedia. And here's a chart that shows pretty simply how the male and the dark blue is the part, like how much like they use it, like the gun, like by gun, and then all other ways that they use it. And men use it 61% of the time, gun, and then women's only around 20%. Suicide victims suffer a great deal that leads them to choose their fate, but it is the survivors that suffer the rest of their lives coping with this intense loss. Survivors of suicide are those considered to be left behind after a suicide tragedy has occurred. Survivors are those who try to pick up the pieces, all while feeling the inevitable betrayal and forever asking why. According to suicidology.com, for every suicide there are at least 6 people left behind to cope. 6 people to have to walk past the deceased's room untouched with all their belongings still in place, to plan a burial, to comfort friends and coworkers all while needing comfort themselves, closing down bank accounts, picking up the phone calls from telemarketers still asking for the deceased. The list goes on and on, all while the survivors deeply mourn their lost loved ones. You may be thinking, all is lost, but that is far from the truth. In recent events of extreme gun violence, many new laws have come into effect in regards to firearms. The New York Secure Ammunition and Firearm Enforcement Act of 2013, commonly known as the NY SAFE Act, is a gun control law in the state of New York. The law was passed by the New York state legislature on January 15, 2013. The NY SAFE Act contains a number of firearm regulations and severability provisions. in case the broad prohibition against weapons is invalidated by the courts. There are also many prevention methods and strategies to help decrease suicide. Things to look for if you suspect someone close to you is considering suicide is appearing sad or depressed most of the time, loss of interest, trouble sleeping or eating that does not go away or continues to worsen, feeling anxious, agitated, or unable to sleep, losing interest in hobbies, work, school, or other things one used to care about, and frequent and dramatic mood changes. Keep in mind, these are only a few of the possible warning signs of suicide. Some preventative actions you can take to help decrease suicide are keeping any weapons locked in a designated safe place, talking freely and openly about the topic of suicide, and counseling services. There are also hundreds of suicide hotlines you can call confidentially and toll-free if you or yourself or someone close to you may be considering suicide. You and I can both play a large part in decreasing suicide by showing unconditional love and acceptance for all. Suicide does not end the chances of life getting worse. Suicide eliminates the possibility of life ever getting better. And then I have a picture of my friend who lost his life due to suicide. And then online there's actually a website called Memorial Networking that has, and here's his page. So, that's it.